Ladies and gentlemen, could I ask you to please resume your seats? Thank you, Will. Nicely timed. Nice volume. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the toast to football, and this is clearly a moment of pride and excitement for the Melbourne Cricket Club, as I'm sure it is for all attendees tonight. Linda Dessau was sworn in as Governor of Victoria on the 1st of July last year, the first woman to occupy the role in this state. The new Governor had enjoyed a distinguished career in the law and was for 18 years a judge in the Family Court of Australia. She'd also been involved in a broad range of community organisations, among them as founding chair of the Essendon Football Club's trailblazing Women's Network. As happens in this city, the daughter of a Polish immigrant father, outstanding at academia though she may be, can become drawn by the magic of what we call footy. A decade after her first formal foray into what had long been such a man's world, the future Governor became the second woman appointed to the AFL Commission. This role was maintained until a higher calling forced it to be relinquished last year. To deliver the toast to football in 2016, please welcome the Governor of Victoria, Linda Dessau.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Frank Maguire, Parliamentary Secretary for Medical Research, the Honourable Damien Drum, Shadow Minister for Sport, and Shadow Minister for Veterans and Shadow Minister for Regional Development, Mr. Stephen Smith, President of the Melbourne Cricket Club, the very many distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen. Well, first I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we're gathering tonight, and I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and to any elders with us this evening. Now, in constitutional terms, the Governor is head of state, numero uno in Victoria. Therefore, he or she could expect to be your first choice to propose this toast this evening. However, I know that football is a parallel universe. It has its own oxygen, its own solar system, and its own hierarchy. I know that people were only half joking when they congratulated me at the time of my appointment, but then commiserated that my changing houses from AFL House to Government House was quite a demotion. So I know that as Governor, I was not your first choice as Speaker to propose this toast. But as footy thrives on rumour and innuendo, I do know some of those you thought of before you came to me. I'm sorry to embarrass you, Mr. Chairman, but I do know this. As I understand it, you were thinking of asking Mike Fitzpatrick, but you were worried he'd be just too emotional and sentimental for this occasion. I believe that you then turned your minds to Gil McLachlan, but thought he'd be too daunted until he conquers the shyness. I understand, in fact, that you asked James Hird, but he refused. He said it wasn't fair the way he was asked. But he did add that he hopes that at some time in the future he'll be free to tell his story and everyone will finally know the truth about that invitation. Then there was Eddie. Now, I'm not absolutely sure whether or not Eddie was asked. He steadfastly refused to comment on the invitation, giving exclusive interviews with no less than a dozen separate reporters, emphasising that he absolutely positively wouldn't speak about it. Bruce McAvaney said that unfortunately he couldn't give the oration. He said that his invitation actually arrived too late. He went on to say something similar had happened to him on the 12th of July 1974 when the weather was 24.7 degrees. And he remembers that an invitation arrived 3 minutes and 36 seconds after the RSVP had closed. Or was it Josh Kay who remembered that? I'm not sure. Someone told me that Meatloaf was asked. I simply didn't believe that anyone in their right mind would ask Meatloaf to the MCG. And finally, I know that you asked Sam Newman, but characteristically, he insisted that you ask a woman, and here I am. So, here I am, and I'm honoured to be proposing the toast to footy, the game that I've loved since, well, forever. That said, when I was approached to join the AFL Commission 8 years ago now, I was particularly conscious of what I didn't know. Although there will be little girls who in the future, or little girls now who in the future, will be able to say that they were appointed to the AFL Commission after playing 300 games for Melbourne or the Bulldogs or whomever. Of course, that was not the case for me. Although in my childhood dreams, I played for Essendon and obviously in the ruck, you can tell. In any event, for all that I don't and can't ever know about footy, there's much that I do know. I do know that when it comes to AFL clubs, that although there's always more that unites than divides them, they do in fact have their own different and distinct personalities. I also know Latin because I'm a lawyer. At least I know it well enough to know that in many instances a distinct club personality is readily divulged by its motto. I know, for example, that Latin can do strange things to mottos. The Magpies motto is a case in point. Floreat Pica may appear to be a short, sharp motto, but remarkably, when you translate it into English, it means prosper the magpie because without us you're all nothing, even with your generous AFL handouts, rich talent zones, lopsided draft picks, and of course our money. I can see Alistair Clarkson laughing. Well, he shouldn't. It's a jealously guarded fact that Hawthorn actually has two mottos. One, Spectumum Agendo, a motto that apparently resonates with our four-time premiership coach, who'll follow me this evening to respond to this toast, means, of course, I must not punch the wall again. At least, not while the TV cameras are on me. The other, I understand, is the well-known Latin expression, Cyrillus beeth thieth nameth. Every Hawthorn supporter loves that one. Richmond's motto is eat 'em alive. It sounds so ferocious, but when you translate the English into, well, English, it's actually, I might just have a little nibble and... Sorry. It's okay. Essendon supporters are suffering at the moment. I can make jokes about other clubs. Sorry. Sydney's is a complex one. Some people erroneously translate aut vincere aut mori as either to conquer or to die. In truth, it translates as we either conquer Eddie or we die trying. It is funny, though, to note the links between clubs with similar mottos. Adelaide's is Natus ad magnum gerenda, or born to great things. Geelong's, I understand, is very close, but instead of Natus ad magnum gerenda, it's Padius Natus Deo gratis ad Moggs Creek gerenda, which obviously translates as Paddy was born to great things and thank the Lord it was in Moggs Creek. So, what else do I know about footy? Well, would it frighten you if I admitted that I learned a lot of what I know from Kevin Sheedy? In my defence, I couldn't help it. He was, after all, the Essendon coach for most of my adult life. Anyway, as well as learning about Martians, seagulls, marshmallows and new strains of flu at Windy Hill, I learned, or had confirmed, what I'd long believed, that this game belongs to everyone. I know that it's something very dear to very many people. And whichever historical view of its origins that you subscribe to, almost the equivalent in significance to the evolution versus creation theories, it's just such an Australian part of Australia. I know it's a thing of beauty, and I know that from watching, well, Cyril Rioli glide across a pack, hitting the ground with the poise of a ballet dancer and the purpose of a bullet train. Or Paddy Dangerfield and Joel Selwood, who could be blindfolded and still instinctively find each other in heavy traffic, a potent mixture, I think, of poetry and power. And I know it from watching Jack Viney, who transforms himself from a smiling angel off the field to the fiercest of fierce demons on it. And Buddy Franklin, who only needs to take possession to remind an entire stadium that the impossible is possible, and just a heartbeat, or sometimes, as I've experienced, a heartbreak away. And I know it from our next generation of superheroes too, like Tom Lynch and Jeremy Cameron and Jesse Hogan, who effortlessly carry the expectations of so many on their young but particularly broad and capable shoulders. I know that football brings people together, that funny oval ball that bounces so unpredictably, and I promise that political comments or matters of policy are neither for the Governor nor for an ex-AFL Commissioner, so it's the only time I'll stray into policy by saying, because I can, that I so hope that we keep the bounce. I've just divided the room, I know. Anyway, that oval ball and that oval field of play do bring us together. They can absolutely unite us. I know that they can do that, even when tribal loyalties drive us apart. For each enemy supporter from the other side, there are the fellow supporters who just bleed the same common colours with us. And in this country, we really are blessed, and so we need it to continue, that even the enmity between club supporters is generally played out with jibes and jokes. Opponents for much of the game, but always willing to unite, particularly against the umpires. By the way, I love the umpires. Only a judge knows the pressure and the loneliness of rapid-fire decisions. And how much harder for the umpires. They're literally on the run, and at least as judges we were sitting down and facing forward. It was much easier. But let's not lose the point. Footy truly does unite us. It can be a touch point of respect and welcome, a lightning rod that brings a sense of belonging. And don't we need that more than ever? I know that for many people who do it tough, footy is a shining beacon in what can be a bleaker landscape. Money worries disappear, unless of course you want to eat at the game, sorry. Maybe I'm not such a good guest after all, sorry. Powerlessness is replaced by power, as you can tell the coach what he clearly needs to know. Loneliness belongs elsewhere, as a simple nod or a meeting of the eyes with those unnamed mates that sit or stand nearby you every fortnight bring an instant and a warm connection. Or a lonely night at home can pass in company with Bruce and Hamish, or BT or Timmy. I know he's meant to be Tim nowadays, but to me, he's always going to be Timmy. I know that in households around the country, time is made for family football rituals in what's otherwise a busy schedule of school and work and chores and daily tasks. There's the warmth of walking hand in hand with your dad, excitedly contemplating the game ahead, and later limping or skipping home, depending. Spending quality time together with family or with friends, screaming out, covering your eyes, groaning, complaining, exclaiming, shedding tears or euphoric. The knowledge that your teenage sons might talk directly to you. That's said with feeling, believe me. That is, with more than just a grunt, so long as it's about a crucial tribunal decision, an injury, a new recruit, or yet another rule change. I can now criticise the Commission. So many rule changes, Gab, try and fix that up. And the joy of empty nesters, knowing that even without the kids, your love of footy still means you've got stuff in common. I always knew the good that could be achieved through footy. Let's start with typical AFL humility with world peace. To see a team of Israelis and Palestinians come together to play our game is to understand the power of the Sharon. People who've literally been brought up to hate each other, being brought together by a love of our exciting game. A game that allows all body types just to have a go, that encourages different skills from ballet to brute force, and a game that depends on teamwork and collaboration to find success. And what a joy to watch the peace team grow to understand the game, despite the challenge of language and translation. I stood on the ground at Royal Park while they translated Dipper into Arabic and Hebrew. But only after they'd translated him from footy into English, truly. And closer to home, seeing Indigenous kids watching Indigenous men as they realised that, like those men, they could achieve and lead, and that footy need not be their be-all and their end-all, but it could just be an important part of their story, just as it had been for Michael Long, Mickey O'Loughlin, Adam Goods and very many others. I know that through footy, we've tackled some of the most complex social issues that a less robust sport may have chosen to avoid. Men's violence towards women, illicit drug use, racism, homophobia, to name just a few. All are still works in progress, just as they are in the wider community from which we're all drawn, but they are very much on the table. Like the game itself, football really does provide a platform for conversations that would otherwise not be had. We can't solve all the ills of the world, but we can provide a safe environment in which to talk about them. I know how much I learned in my almost 8 years on the Commission about many things, but in particular, I know how assiduously the Commission and the Executive work to ensure rules that create more attacking, exciting, big-scoring games, rules that protect the players, and rules to create an even competition where any team can compete for the ultimate prize. And I do know how much time and effort the Commission puts into adjudicating the rules and the responsibility they feel to get it right. Certainly Mike Fitzpatrick never left any of us in doubt that the paramount role of the Commissioners as the custodians of the game is always to hand it on in better shape. And in that light, I feel proud when I see 2 new northern clubs, an Adelaide Oval that's upgraded, used and loved, clubs vying to be part of the new Women's League, and a collective view on ensuring the opportunity for all clubs to win, although not at any cost. Finally, I know that when people talk about the footy family, it's not just empty rhetoric. Tony and I have met the nicest people, good people, hard-working people, often volunteers, like every AFL commissioner and every club president and every club board member, and countless people at every level of every club in every region of Australia. And as I know he'll speak after me, I think it's prudent to say that I rank Alistair Clarkson as one of the very best. I'm expecting such compliments now. Yes, he's got his funny little ways. Haven't we all? Well, on reflection, perhaps he has more of them. But Alistair still typifies what I love most about footy. For many of you here, you can and you will wax eloquent about his coaching techniques, his tactics and his strategies. From Clarko's cluster to the possession game with its exquisite skill under pressure. We've all watched it and loved it. The great coaches reinvent their teams to stay one step ahead, and Alistair's outstanding success speaks to just that. For my part, I care that he cares so much, that he cares about the young men in his charge, that he cares about the people who follow Hawthorn, but that he cares just as much for the people who follow football, that he cares about the culture of the game and that he cares about the greater good of the game. I like him very much, I'm prepared to say, for those and for a number of other reasons. He's very good about foxes and owls too, but that's an in-joke because he's told me all about these animals in the garden at Government House. And he hasn't shot them, which for a country boy is very good. And let me say at this point, I like footy very much too, and I always will, because football mirrors life. And when you give yourself to the game, it has a way of giving back in kind. It makes us all feel that we belong, we're joined together, regardless of tribe, regardless of allegiance, regardless of gender, race or religion, just joined by a common love and a common family, the football family. And it's ultimately for that very easily stated reason, distilling all other simple or lofty thoughts about our great game, that I am absolutely delighted to ask you all at this point to please be upstanding for the toast to football, which I will take that glass for. To football. Okay, cheers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I must say I am left with one abiding image, which was a little distracting for the remaining part of the Governor's speech, and that is of Razor Ray Chamberlain walking to the middle on Monday wearing black robes and a judge's wig, a Sharon in one hand and a gavel in the other. I must say, though, that I continue to hope, like the Governor, that even though he doesn't get it up very high, Razor Ray does continue bouncing the ball. Incidentally, on table 14 there is a retired Latin teacher named Kevin Carroll, known to many of you, and if you would like to check the faithfulness of the Governor's translations, he is the man to see during the course of the night. We'll be back after main course with Alistair Clarkson's response to the Governor's toast.